Before there were borders or nations, there was a promise that would shape the destiny of the world. The land we call Palestine today was once known by many names: Canaan, the Promised Land, Israel, and Judea. But in the pages of the Bible, this land wasn't just geography. It was the stage where heaven touched earth. It was here that God spoke to Abraham, saying, "Go to the land that I will show you. To your descendants I will give this land." That moment, thousands of years ago, became the cornerstone of faith for millions. As Abraham obeyed and walked through the desert sands, he didn't see cities or kingdoms, only faith. His descendants, Isaac and Jacob, carried that same promise forward. But over time, famine forced them into Egypt, and what began as survival turned into slavery. For 400 years, the children of Abraham cried out, until a man named Moses led them back toward the land their ancestors were promised. When they finally crossed the Jordan River under Joshua's leadership, it wasn't just conquest, it was fulfillment. The land of Canaan became the nation of Israel. For centuries, this land flourished. Under King David, Jerusalem became its shining heart. David's son, Solomon, built a magnificent temple, a place where the Ark of the Covenant rested and God's presence was believed to dwell among his people. For a moment in history, the promise seemed complete, but pride and idolatry crept in. The nation split in two, Israel in the north, Judah in the south, and soon empires came like storms. The Assyrians conquered Israel, the Babylonians destroyed the temple and exiled Judah. The land of promise had turned into a land of sorrow. Yet even in captivity, hope refused to die. Prophets like Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel spoke of restoration, that one day the people would return and the land would bloom again. And so it did. Under Persian rule, exiles came home and rebuilt the temple. But empires continued to rise and fall, the Greeks, the Romans, each one leaving its mark on the Holy Land. Then, in a small town called Bethlehem, a baby was born. His name was Jesus. He grew up in Nazareth, walked along the shores of Galilee, and healed the broken in the same land once promised to Abraham. His words redefined faith. His miracles renewed hope, and his sacrifice on the cross in Jerusalem changed history forever. Through his resurrection, that same land became the birthplace of redemption. After Jesus, the Roman Empire tightened its grip. The Jewish revolts were crushed, the temple destroyed again in 70 CE, and the Romans renamed the region Palestina, hoping to erase Jewish identity from the land. But faith endured. Over the centuries, Palestine became home to empires and faiths: Byzantines, Muslims, Crusaders, Ottomans, each wave reshaping its people and places. Yet no matter who ruled, Jerusalem remained sacred to Jews, Christians, and Muslims alike. Fast forward to the modern era. After the fall of the Ottoman Empire in World War I, Britain took control under the British Mandate for Palestine. Then came 1948, a year that changed everything. The modern state of Israel was declared, and immediately war broke out. Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians were displaced, creating one of the world's longest-standing refugee crises. Since then, this small stretch of land, just a few hundred miles long, has witnessed more conflict than almost any place on Earth. Today, the world knows it as one of the most divided regions, Israel and Palestine, locked in decades of tension, war, and grief. The struggle over land, identity, and survival continues. For believers, these events echo ancient prophecies. In the Bible, Jerusalem is called a cup of trembling, a place that causes nations to shake. Jesus himself said, "You will hear of wars and rumors of wars." And to many, those words feel painfully real today. From Gaza to Jerusalem, the cries of the innocent fill the same valleys where prophets once walked. Families live in fear, cities lie in ruins, and generations grow up knowing more about checkpoints and missiles than peace. Yet even amid this darkness, faith refuses to die. Churches, mosques, and synagogues still stand side by side, reminders that deep down humanity still longs for something greater than politics: peace. In the prophetic books, peace is not just a dream, it's a divine promise. Isaiah wrote of a time when swords would be beaten into plowshares, when nations would no longer train for war. Zechariah spoke of a day when Jerusalem would be lifted up as a place of unity. And in the final vision of the Bible, the Apostle John saw a new heaven and a new earth, and the holy city, the new Jerusalem, descending from God. In that city, there would be no war, no tears, no death, only light, only peace. For believers around the world, that hope defines the future of Palestine, not as a battleground, but as the meeting point of heaven and earth. Many see the return of Israel in 1948 as part of biblical prophecy, a fulfillment of God's promise to restore his people to their land. Others focus not on politics, but on the spiritual truth behind it, that the real promised land is not physical territory, but the kingdom within our hearts. Today, as global powers debate peace deals and ceasefires, the deeper question remains: how can peace exist without justice? And how can justice come without love? The Bible doesn't just predict events, it calls for transformation. It invites believers to pray for peace, to act with compassion, and to remember that every child in this land, Israeli or Palestinian, is made in the image of God. Maybe that's what the story has been saying all along. From Abraham's journey to Jesus' cross, from exile to resurrection, the story of Palestine has never really been about politics. It's been about promise, a promise that light will always return to darkness, that faith will outlast fear, that one day Jerusalem, the city of peace, will finally live up to its name. Until that day, the land remains both ancient and alive, carrying the weight of human pain and divine purpose. It reminds us that history isn't random, it's redemption in progress. And though the world may look at Palestine and see conflict, the faithful see something deeper, a sign that the story isn't over yet. Because the God who began his promise in this land still holds its future, and ours, in his hands.